hello everyone. We're going live on Facebook and Instagram for coffee and questions this morning. And today we're talking about all things hydration. We've had some really good questions come through, and there's quite a lot of questions this morning actually. So we'll see what we can smash through quickly. But before we get started, just to let you know, we've got sweat testing on this weekend on Saturday the 22nd here in Brisbane if you're a local and you want to get an understanding of what your sweat rate is and figure out what your sweat concentration is like. So send me a message on the socials here, send me an email and lock yourself in for a spot. There's a couple of spots left, and this may be the last session that we're running for the year. So if it's something that you're interested in, then definitely get on board ASAP. It's Monday now. It's Saturday on the weekend. So yeah, get organised if that's something that you're interested in. The other thing is water bottles are on the website. I've had a few people asking sort of around size, and so I've measured those out at 25.3 centimetres from the top to the bottom. They fit in a standard bottle cage though, so you shouldn't have any trouble with fitting them on your bike. But they are an 800 ml volume, which is awesome, and they've got a cool strip down the middle so you can see exactly how much you're drinking. And what I like to do with race plans is actually sort of dictate volumes for people. So there's cool little 100 ml markers right up the side as well, so you can plan out what you need to drink by certain times, and a strip so that you can also see what's in the bottle. So they're on the website now. It's cheaper postage if you get a couple. Otherwise, if you just get one, it's sort of a set rate. So grab yourself a couple and save on postage. All right, let's get into the first question. So the first question I had was, what's the biggest sweat rate or loss I've ever measured? And I was thinking back, I think it's probably still Hamo. I think he holds the record of 3.3 litres an hour, which is just insane. He's probably the biggest. He gets dehydrated really quickly, and that wasn't even a particularly hot day when we did that testing, and it was sort of 5:30 in the morning as well. So I think that's probably my record for the biggest. A couple of people have come close, but I don't think anyone has tipped him off the biggest sweater list. All right, next question is a good one. Why do people sweat more than others? So everyone's really different, which is why sweat testing is really good, so you can actually figure out what your sweat rate is for you. So there's a couple of factors that dictate what your sweat rate will be, and a big one is the environment. Obviously, you're going to sweat more in hotter environments compared to cooler environments, and the same as humidity, where you just don't have that evaporative cooling that you get when the air's drier. It also depends on how hard you're going, so the intensity of the session, and also the duration. So you're obviously going to sweat more the longer you're out there for. And so it's having a sense of, well, one, what your event is going to be like, or your training environment's like. Two, how hard you're going. So obviously sweating more at higher intensities. And then obviously duration too. So you're going to sweat more the longer you're out there for. And then other factors that affect your sweat rate would be definitely genetics. Like some people are just sweaty people, and that's okay. And your size as well can be an indicator of what sort of sweater you're going to be. And then obviously fitter, your fitness level. So the fitter you are, often the more you'll sweat, because your body's more efficient at trying to cool itself. But then also on the other aspect of that is that if you're fitter, you can probably go harder for longer without it feeling as hard or putting the body under as much stress. So you may sweat a little bit less compared to somebody that is less fit. So there's a number of factors that affect your sweat rate. There's no one size fits all. So if you are like a heavy sweater or a salty sweater, or you just have no idea what to be drinking in training or racing, or you find that you're just falling into a hole after sessions or fading towards the back end, then I definitely invest in some sweat testing and just get a rough sense of what your sweat rate is in a couple of different environmental conditions. And definitely if you're going to do an event that's hot or long, then you want to have some sort of drinking plan as well. So book yourself in for sweat testing on Saturday. and figure out what your sweat rate is like, and then also how much sodium you're losing in your sweat too, because that helps you to guide your replacement. But good question. I think that one came from Amelia. All right, next question comes from Cheryl, one of my clients. She wants to know about hydration for New York City Marathon. So Cheryl, if you're listening, I can't see you online, but maybe you'll watch the replay. New York City Marathon, she wants to know if you need, like, because a hydration vest isn't allowed, so how is she going to manage her hydration in an event like that? So most marathons have aid stations every sort of 2Ks. So in New York, in America, there are aid stations every mile, which is 1.6 Ks for us Aussies. So there's regular access to fluids. You don't need a hydration vest, which is why they're not allowed, because every 1.6 kilometres you have access to water and or sports drink. And you can also carry some bottles or a fuel belt yourself if you want something in particular, but there's no need to have sort of a hydration vest on board for an event like that. The other thing with New York is it's typically not a hot event. It's relatively cool, particularly in the morning at the start. So you don't need to drink as much as when you're in a hot environment. So Cheryl's been living and training in like Abu Dhabi, which is crazy hot. So you just won't need to be drinking anywhere near the same amount as a hot environment like that. So definitely get in touch, Cheryl, if you need help with your hydration plan for New York. But you will have access to fluids way more frequently, and it's not going to be as hot. So I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue compared to the crazy stuff you've been doing in the past. All right, next question. How do you make your own isotonic drinks, or any tips for doing that? So I guess number one is like, why would you want to do that? There's so many products on the market that you just don't need to do that now. And, you know, if you're worried about like certain ingredients or preservatives and things, there's lots more natural products as well. So like I'm thinking Pure Sports Nutrition as an example, it's based on fruit. So I don't know why you would want to do that. And then it would also be quite difficult to figure out the osmolality of a drink that you're preparing at home. So I've actually written a blog on hydration and what is the best sports drink. I'll link it here so you guys can have a read, but it does explain what osmolality is and the difference between isotonic, hypertonic, and hypotonic. So it's a measure of how many particles are in the solution. Now, hypo means low, so there's not as many particles in the solution, and hyper means, well, I don't exactly know what hyper means, but it means lots, like more concentrated, so there's more particles in the solution. So an isotonic drink means that it's a similar particles in the solution as the body. So in theory, it means that you absorb it the most efficiently and effectively because it matches the body's concentration. But there's so many other factors that come into play with that. And a lot of products don't actually advertise what their osmolality is. You kind of have to figure it out and use some math skills to work out what the osmolality actually is. And products, commercial products, the osmolality of the body that's the same is 290 milliosmoles per litre. And in the commercial sense, they don't have that strict control. So I don't know exactly what the range is off the top of my head, but it can range like from like 100 on either side, or 50 milliosmoles on either side. So yeah, again, it's just really hard to gauge. And then like, why do you want isotonic is the other question. So if it's the only product that you're using, then sure. And you're doing a really long, intense type training session or race. But if you're eating other things, consuming more water, consuming other stuff, then that all affects the osmolality in your stomach. So it's no longer isotonic when you're mixing lots of things in together. Hey, Cheryl, I've already answered your question, so you might have to watch the replay. yeah, so unless you're purely having isotonic, then you're just complicating things by having other products. So yeah, that's a difficult one. No, I guess no clear answer for you. Have a read of the blog. I'll link here on the best, like how to choose the best sports drink, and then explains the osmolality concept. And then I guess it also just depends on what else you're doing. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. All right, and the final question, is there any evidence around taking isotonic tablets pre and post to help with hydration? So I'm not going to touch on the isotonic thing because we've just kind of talked about that. But so taking pre and post to help with hydration. So in terms of hydrating before event and rehydrating after event, I'm assuming that means. So again, isotonic, it's not necessarily isotonic anymore if you're having other things in your stomach. And there's no reason to suddenly increase the amount of sodium and fluid you're having pre-event. You need to be doing that systematically, probably for the week leading into a longer event, like say a triathlon. And the other factor with that is you don't necessarily need to take a specific product. There's naturally electrolytes in food. There's actually more sodium in 2 slices of bread than there is in a 600 ml sports drink. So if you're, just drinking water with meals and snacks, then you'll naturally help with your fluid retention before events because the electrolytes in that food will help you to hold on to the fluid rather than just peeing it straight out. So depending on who you are and what your event is, would depend if you did something like that as a strategy. So definitely talk with a sports dietitian if that's something you wanted to consider. And then there's not necessarily too much of a need to do that because you can just drink water with meals and snacks and that has a similar sort of effect. You could drink, say, an isotonic solution in between meals and snacks if you wanted to. But if you needed to do that, then you probably aren't drinking enough with meals and snacks. If you're looking to hyperhydrate, then you can do that with sodium and sort of sodium loading. So an isotonic solution is not going to do that for you. And the other product that can be useful that's been taken off the wider banned list is glycerol. So again, you can sort of hyperhydrate with that. And there's a bit more in the literature around that heading into Tokyo because Tokyo is going to be so bloody hot. So I hope that answers that question. That came from one of our clients too. Can't remember who you were, sorry. One of the girls, maybe Tash. I've pretend like if I see you as a client and we're doing a race plan, I talk you through exactly what you do heading in, on the day, and after for recovery and rehydration as well. So I don't necessarily think you need to have isotonic tablets. If you're going into a hot environment that you're not used to, then I definitely wouldn't recommend it because you actually change the normal filtration rate of your kidneys by suddenly throwing some extra sodium at it. So it increases the kidneys' filtration of sodium out. And so when you go to then race in a hot environment, your kidneys are working overtime to get rid of the sodium and you're just going to pee more and lose more sodium. So not a good strategy heading into something like Kona or a hot event like, say, a Noosa Olympic distance try for you Melbourneites where it's a bit cool. All right, that was like rapid fire hydration. They were some really good questions, guys. Thank you for submitting them and asking them. I'm really loving this segment each week and I hope you are too. So we'll see you next week. I've already drunk my coffee. I was too late. It's empty, but it's here. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next week.